Hi everyone, my name is Kopal. I'm a second year studying psychology and we'll be going through the 10 tips to stress less at uni. So this campaign is a statewide initiative led by Way Ahead Mental Health Association New South Wales in collaboration with Western Sydney University with support from UNSW and ANU. Now, these tips were created with students for students. So the tips provide overarching self-directed strategies that can be engaged with to support a student's management of stress and to promote their well-being. To learn more about the campaign and the research process, please visit Stress Less at Uni Tips. So let's get started with the 10 tips. So tip number 1 is sleep, getting enough sleep. I know we're all uni students, so we're busy with lectures and tutorials and maybe we work as well. So we need to balance our day well and we need to be motivated and energized enough to be able to do that. Now, the best way to ensure that we get this done is to get enough sleep. Now, for our age as adults, we should be sleeping around 7 to 9 hours per night. And it might be tricky for us. And I think the best way to really nail this is to have a somewhat strict sleep schedule, which just means a ballpark of what time you should sleep and what time you should wake up. So I know for me, I go to sleep at maybe 11:30 and then I wake up at 7:30. So that's 8 hours of sleep and you can, adjust that however you feel. And if you need any more advice about that, the good reason to sleep more is because it's been proven by this study that you get better academic performance. And if you sleep less, there are high levels of stress, which obviously does us no good. Next slide, please. So tip number 2 is to connect with friends and socialize. As we all know with COVID that, as humans, we're all social creatures. So it's important for our mental, emotional, and physical health to talk to our friends. And I think it's something as simple as, obviously with COVID and now things have opened up a little, but you can have a FaceTime call with a friend or go out for a coffee with someone. I know with my friends, we like to do a games night whenever possible. So maybe once every couple of weeks, we'll do a games night, just catch up with, how everyone's doing and just get to catch up with uni and we get to step away from all the stresses that we might be feeling at that time. So you can even make new friends through university and externally through sport clubs, maybe religious groups, volunteering opportunities that are at UNSW or anywhere else. Yeah. And the third tip is to take a break and change your environment. Now, something that I've learned, especially by, I'm only a second year student, so I've been studying online for the past 2 years. And what I realized is it's pretty easy to sit at your desk all day and not get up. But, it's pretty important to still take breaks because they're a significant part of our study schedule. So there are different ways to take breaks and there are different amounts of time you can take breaks and different things you can do while you do take a break. So it could be something as simple as, taking 10 minutes to step away from your desk, just, going downstairs or going and having a quick snack, or you can have a longer break and talk to a friend, talk to a family member. The main thing is we need to take a break to maintain our concentration and to prevent fatigue because we're not robots. We're not really capable of spending hours on end at our desk and getting successful amounts of work done. I know one technique that is really helpful is the Pomodoro technique, if people have heard of it, which is where you do a 25-minute study and 5 minutes break. And after you do 4 rotations of that, you get a longer break. So if you just search that online, I'm sure you can find a website that helps you do that. And tip number 4 is to listen to music. I love listening to music whenever I can. It gives me a chance to not really think for the moment and just focus on the song. And I know that, with studies have found that listening to music can really relieve stress and improve our well-being. So although studies have shown that listening to slow tempo and instrumental music is relaxing, personally, I like listening to, upbeat music. So to each their own. You can make a Spotify playlist that caters to different, moods that you're feeling. And yeah, I think it's just a great way to not get caught up too much in your work that you may be doing. And tip number 5 is to make time for yourself. So like I said before, we're all uni students. So we might get caught up in getting things done and we forget that we need to take time for ourselves. Whatever energy or whatever effort that we put out into our uni work or actual jobs that we may have, we also need to put in the same amount of time into our own well-being. And you can do this in a number of ways. You can maybe pick up on old hobbies, pick up new hobbies. I know with COVID, lots of people have been doing like painting or crochet, maybe watch a new TV show or a movie, doing anything that you like working out, reading a book, playing a sport, because all of these things can help you relax and reduce stress, fatigue, blood pressure, and improve your mood and concentration. Yeah. So the next thing is to speak to someone you trust. Now, sometimes these techniques that I have mentioned, like so far, might not work, or you feel as though because you want to reach out to someone and say that, I'm not doing so well, and that's perfectly okay to feel that way. There are different levels to which you can approach this. So if you don't feel like maybe you don't want to talk to someone you trust, you can first start off by writing down how you're feeling to really think through what's going on. And then you can reach out to a friend, a close friend, a family member, or any support service. And whatever you choose to say depends on how comfortable you are. So take things at your own pace. You don't have to say everything. Like I said, something as simple as, I'm feeling a bit stressed out. I'm not feeling at the top of my game right now. Feeling pretty overwhelmed. What you'll find is when you reach out to someone, you'll find that you're not alone in how you're feeling. So for me, I like writing things down or sending a quick message to a friend saying, hey, I'm not feeling so well. And at least there's someone there to listen. So it's always a pretty positive experience for the most part. Another tip is to get moving, like be active. Now, being active is pretty important because it can support your physical and mental health. Being active releases endorphins that improve your mood, which make you feel better about yourself and gives you reason also to step away from anything that may be stressing you out. I know a lot of good things that I've picked up on and my friends have is to go for a walk. Obviously, it's been raining this week, so you might not be able to go for a walk, but going for a walk for 20-30 minutes is pretty good. Or like picking up a new workout routine, maybe picking up a sport if you can. And there are tons of YouTube videos that you could watch that you could do at home, workout videos. Workout tutorials that you could do, stretching and all that. And this ties in with being active, which is to nourish your body as well. Because when we get stressed out, sometimes it slips our mind to eat regularly, and we should avoid that. We should eat regularly, drink enough water, eat our fruits and vegetables. So it's mainly about eating food that nourishes your body and not about what foods are good and bad for you. Because eating, increases your energy and can reduce your fatigue throughout the day. And I think it's mainly about you need to understand how your body works and what works for you or not. I know that if I'm going to snack, I might eat fruit because I might not be eating fruit regularly throughout the day. So I'll have an apple or a banana or something like that. And different things you could do is look up new recipes on YouTube. You could meal prep at the weekend so you don't have to have that additional stress of what you're going to do during the week. And it's all about, building that positive relationship with your body and food. And I think that's really important with reducing your stress as well. Tip number 9 is to practice mindfulness. So mindfulness, if you don't know what that is to be present in the current moment, be present of your surroundings and what's going on inside as well. Now, obviously, we know that stress is a very, mental thing, but can take a toll on everything else as well. So you can practice mindfulness by learning some new breathing techniques, or practicing gratitude by maybe telling someone you're grateful for them. You can even do a guided meditation that you can find on YouTube. And the main thing is to let your mind be at peace, because this can help reduce your, help you reduce stress and anxiety. Now, I know 2 techniques that I've seen a lot for the past couple of years, but one is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, which you may have heard of, which is you name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can feel or touch, 2 things you can smell or you like the smell of, and 1 thing you enjoy the taste of. If that doesn't work, another technique that honestly works for me is a breathing technique where I breathe in for 4 counts, hold it for 7, and then let it out for 8 counts. So these techniques can just help you become present what's going on in your body and maybe turn your mind off, switch it off for a moment And it honestly is really helpful. So if those don't work for you, you can always search online for new techniques on YouTube. And the last technique or the last tip is to spend time with family and loved ones. Now, I know I've already touched on this, but this is a great way to unwind and relax and just get to catch up with everyone. Because having that support system around you is pretty important. And it can be something as simple as having a meal together or talking to someone on the phone, having a video call. Just being there with someone helps to build this sort of emotional connection that you can have. And it's just fun to catch up with people and hear what's going on, and you get to relax and step away from all the stresses you might be feeling from uni and work. And it also makes sure that when you build that emotional connection in a positive environment, that if things do get tough, that you can reach out to someone as well. So those are the 10 tips.
Amazing. Thank you, Kopal. I think those tips, like, honestly, like, really useful but helpful, obviously, because it's from us, like the students, but also it's backed up by like studies as well. And I loved how, like, so definitely give it a try.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, they're pretty like basic techniques, like basic tips that you can do, but I feel like we might forget about doing them and then we don't do them. But yeah, I think all of them are pretty helpful. So
totally agree. I definitely feel like I relate with the socialize with people, but also being active, like in lockdown. I needed to be active.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, thank you for that. And we will probably now move on to the Q&A session. So we'll get both Kopal and also Dana to pop on to answer some questions. But whilst that happens, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to pop it onto the Q&A chat. So that's at the bottom of the screen when you click more. And we will all get to that. I'll read them out. So feel free to get typing, and we'll also answer some questions that we have here. So Dana has joined us. Did you want to introduce yourself, Dana?
Yes, no worries. Hi, everyone. My name is Dana, and I'm a fourth year advanced science and arts student majoring in psychology and neuroscience. I'm happy to be here. I know stress is a major factor when it comes to studies and just specifically in this transitional period, right? From high school to university to work, it's so important to learn how to take care of yourself. Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have, and I'm sure Kopal is too.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you. So we'll get right into it. So the first question that I have for the both of you is, what would you say are some inexpensive ways to engage in self-care and to stress less? So, we're uni students and sometimes we can be broke, I guess. So are there any inexpensive ways that you'd like to share?
You can go for it, Dana.
Yeah, no worries. I think this is such an important question. I mean, I think a lot of the times when they suggest ways to take care of yourself and to relax, they say vacation, go to Europe, go overseas, go to New Zealand, and it's just not that realistic for like every single situation. It's a great question. For me personally, I think self-care for me means kind of being like mindful of taking care of yourself throughout the day, right? I think it's important to maintain that thought, and I think it is really important in just kind of bringing down your stress levels. Like, for example, doing little things like having a daily skincare routine. I think that's a form of self-care. Moisturizing, cleansing for me is actually really calming, and it's really de-stressing. And it just makes me feel better, right? Like I feel better and I feel like I'm more calm and relaxed to go through university work or go out to go to work, that sort of thing. Another thing that I would say, I think it's so important to learn how to kind of calm yourself and pace yourself. I think especially with social media and looking at like it's so fast paced, right? Even things like YouTube videos, like all of the social media is essentially designed to capture your attention, maintain it, right? And I think a lot of the time it's so cognitively overwhelming to absorb all of these materials every single day. I've personally found a really nice alternative. I don't know if you guys listen to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasts are like my new favorite thing. Like they are so good because they're so self-paced. They're not like too overwhelming because you're just sitting down and listening. That one is another really good form of self-care that I think is really easily kind of introduced to your days. Like it could be part of taking a break. That was one of the stress less tips, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that one I think is so good for me. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think pretty similar, like the self-care routine that you're talking about, like, skincare. But also I've started like working out a bit more. Like those are moments that where I'm like, if I'm feeling a bit stressed out, I think it's not helpful for me to like stick with working. Like I shouldn't be at my desk if I'm clearly not going to get the work done. So I like to step away and just work out for an hour. And that, that way, afterwards I'm like a bit relaxed, the endorphins have kicked in. I feel a bit calmer, my head's clearer. And I also like reading quite a bit. So whenever I get a free chance, I'll quickly, read a couple chapters here and there. So those are my top two, I think. Yeah. So I saw that there's a question from Facebook. So I'm too stressed on getting stuff done to the point that I avoid even starting it. Do you have any tips for this? I do have tips for this. I think the main thing is I think we get overwhelmed by the big picture of things. So the best way to like counteract this is to break it down. What I've like done is like on my notes on my laptop, I'll break down a specific task. If I have one assignment, for instance, I'll break down to what are like individual steps I need to do to get the job done. So don't think of like, because we're uni students, we're going to have like tons of assignments at once. We might have exams, midterms, even nitty gritty, like tiny tasks that our subject might tell us to do. But it's good to just break it down, like make a to-do list, break it down, put it on your wall somewhere, and then tick it off one by one. So at least you feel like you've accomplished something. So I think that's my tip.
I think that's so good. Yeah, I do that too. And I think when it comes to being so stressed, I think maybe it's really important to identify what exactly is making you stressed. Like if it's a presentation, is it the presentation component that's making you really stressed and it just overwhelms you with like your other stresses, whatever it is, other assessments, work, just whatever it is, and break that down specifically. Maybe like, well, for me, I like to get into a habit if I'm like really, really stressed about a particular task or I feel like it's so big and I don't know how to first tackle it, just like immediately write down every single thing that is composed of that particular task. What is it that I exactly need to accomplish? And it just, I think, will help you get through that feeling of being really stressed and overwhelmed and just wanting to kind of ignore it. Yeah, I think it's so important to immediately just be like, okay, let's break it down. And I think you'll feel so much better, whoever this person was. But yeah.
Yeah, and also maybe set up like a timeline. I think that helps. So if it's week, what week is it? Week 5 right now. Sorry, it's week 5 right now, and you might have assignment due like week 8. You might think, oh, that's like 3 weeks, and that's enough time. You can obviously like write down like, okay, by this date, I want to get this done, and then by the time you reach week 8, you've already got the job done. I think that's the best way to encounter it as well.
Well, I think that was great advice, and everything like that is really good, like breaking it down. So I definitely relate to that. I think also to this person, just something quickly to add that came up from the top of my head, but I feel like we always stress on things. So there's things we can control in life and there's things we can't control in life. So sometimes we keep focusing on the things we can't control, whether it's when marks come back, like we can't control what mark we're gonna essentially gonna eventually give us and stuff like that. So I guess try separating that and focus on things you can control might help as well. But honestly, Kopal and Dana, that was like amazing. Hopefully that can help the person who asked this question. So feel free to keep writing questions in the Q&A box, everyone. But we'll move on to the third question, that we also have here. So the question is all stress bad? How do we know what's helpful and what's not helpful? What's both of your perspectives on this?
Well, I remember I took this class, but I did learn, and like with COVID and everything, that not all stress is bad. It's all about, because there's a lot of form of there's lots of forms of healthy stress, because that can help you get the job done. It only gets bad necessarily when it hinders you from doing things. So not all stress is bad, because if we didn't have a little bit of stress, we really wouldn't be motivated enough to do things. But yeah, once it hinders you from doing things that you sort of enjoy doing, then that's where you can sort of be it's like maybe it's not the best form of stress, it's too much. Yeah,
I think that's a great answer. Yeah, just maybe be really extra mindful of how you feel. Like if you're stressed but it motivates you, then it's adaptive of some sort. And if you're really, really stressed and it makes you go into really unhealthy coping mechanisms, that's, I think, a time where to consider how that this is potentially more stressful, and you need to come up with maybe some sort of stress management system for whatever the task is, whatever the situation is. But yeah, maybe just being really in touch with how you feel. Does it motivate you? Is it anxious nervousness? Is it that sort of thing? Or does it make you shut down? Or anything like that.
Agreed. That makes sense. So there's both types, it seems like. So that's good to know, because I guess we always, I don't know, for me personally, I always thought that stress was really bad, negative.
Yeah.
I should have none of it at all. But it's natural, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's good to feel stressed sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. If not, I don't think I'd be motivated to keep going. So thank you for those answers. So there's I also had a question. So this question is, how do we know when it's time to get help to manage our stress? So I guess that's when the stress is bad and isn't really helpful. So yeah, when do you know? Because sometimes I guess we want to try and fix it ourselves in a sense, but it's honestly important that sometimes we seek help. But when's that time, do you think? Feel free to whoever starts.
I'm happy to start. I think it's kind of what I touched upon before. If it's so overwhelming, if you're not behaving in an adaptive manner anymore, then that's possibly a time where it could be helpful to seek external support of some kind. There are certainly, I think the 10 tips are great in learning how to manage the stress yourself, but it's also important to acknowledge that sometimes there are things that can happen that you need more help in. And it's completely okay. There's a point in everyone's life where they need to rely on other people to help them through. And it's completely valid to seek out any resources. UNSW has a lot of support services available that are free for you to access. And yeah, definitely if you feel like you can't manage the stress anymore yourself, please feel free, take advantage of the resources UNSW has. There are a lot of them. I don't know, I think we'll mention them later on in the presentation. They'll come up. But yeah, there are many different, for psychological health and well-being. There's support services, academic support. Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I was just going to say that, it depends on, I think you can, like I mentioned in the presentation, was maybe talk to a friend first, a fellow uni student, because I'm sure they can say hey, I'm feeling stressed out too. That could maybe even just talking to a friend could be nice, talking to a parent. And if that, where you're okay, well, this isn't enough, I need actual tips, I need more support, then yeah, that's where you can reach out for the student support services that exist at UNSW. Yeah. So there are some Q&A questions that we haven't gone through. So should we go through the first one?
Yes, sounds good. So this one says, how could design students relieve stress? I have loads of work and I have assignments which run throughout the whole term rather than a term, like end of term exam. So additionally, do you both have any suggestions of how to manage time effectively?
Yeah. I think one that I mentioned was the very like a day-to-day thing, like we've already touched on, which was like writing down a list of things that you need to do. And also the Pomodoro technique that I mentioned. If you feel like, oh, you're sitting at your desk and like hours have gone by, and like how did these hours like just pass on by? And I think it's good to be sort of accountable of what's happening. Start that Pomodoro technique. So 25 minutes of studying where you're like, I have one task I need to achieve right now. And you just put all your attention to that one task. And then once that 25 minutes finish, you're like, okay, now 5 minutes of a break. I'm going to step away. I hopefully tipped off that task. If I haven't, I'll spend the next 25 minutes finishing it off too. And that way you've done so much like work in such a short period of time, and you won't even realize that, oh, a couple hours have passed and you actually use your time like properly and efficiently. Yeah, I think that's my biggest one that works for me. Yeah.
I think that's so great. So yeah, I was just going to say, like, I think I can relate so much. It's like never ending an assessment that is for the entire term, and it just never seems to end. And I think with the whole breaking it up into tasks, it also like allows you to just step away and enjoy time for yourself, whether it is to go out with friends, hang out with other people, family. Like, definitely you should always allow yourself to take time for yourself. And yeah, you don't always have to think about the assessments. you are allowed to step away sometimes. You are allowed.
Yeah, I feel like as students we feel pretty guilty for taking breaks, and we need to know that it's perfectly fine to be like, just like to sort of respect yourself in a way, right? To be like, okay, I know I'm obviously clearly putting in the work for my assignments, but I'm also allowed to put in that same amount of work into myself. And I think we forget to do that. I feel pretty guilty whenever I take breaks. I'm like, oh, I should be studying right now. But like, how effective are you going to be if you're like, not at the top of your game? So yeah.
Oh,
I know,
yes,
yeah.
completely. Yeah. Oh, I completely agree with that. I guess main point to take away, everyone, rest is okay. Feel free to rest. So yeah, and good luck with all your design assignments for the person who wrote this. Yeah, good luck. I hope those tips help. Awesome. So another question that is in the Q&A box is this one's interesting. So how do you motivate yourself to start regular exercise? I think that's really interesting. What do you think?
I can definitely like relate to that motivation aspect. When I was in high school, I used to be a pretty like sporty person in a way where I was always doing something like sporty. And then once COVID started, I couldn't go out to like play netball or whatever. And I've been trying to consistently work out. So I don't have a perfect answer because sometimes I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like working out. I'm not feeling the top of my game. I'm not going to do it. But I think sometimes it's like to think about like the end result as well, to be like, I know that if I put in an hour today, right, after I work out, I'm going to feel pretty good. Like I'll feel a bit relaxed. I might feel a bit sore. That could be a good thing. I like it sometimes when I feel a bit sore because it's like, oh, I put in the work and now that's my end result. So I think maybe if you set up like what goals you have, like why do you want to exercise? Is it because you want to build up your endurance? Is it because you want to just feel good? And then that should sort of motivate yourself to be like, okay, if it's only like certain days a week, so set up a schedule too. Like maybe I'll work out 3 days a week for an hour or 2 hours, or maybe if I want to go on a walk. So it's just like tiny things, and don't beat yourself up if you can't achieve them straight away. Like exercise is a pretty difficult thing to get into, but yeah, I think those are some tips that I've been trying to do myself. Yeah.
What do you think, Dana?
Well, firstly, I relate a lot to this, especially because of COVID. I remember being at uni and walking from the bottom to the top of the campus. That was a form of exercise for me because it literally was like a 10-minute walk. And you miss out on all of those like little just opportunities to kind of move yourself. But because of COVID, that was obviously not the same. For me, I definitely have gone through a period where I didn't exercise, and I think the best way to start is to start little also. Like I think sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating to see people like at the gym, like doing an hour, 2 hours, like with their protein shakes and like just like they know everything. And it's like I don't personally know that. My form of exercise is like maybe going on a walk or like running on the treadmill or running outside. Yeah, just like, is there a particular maybe exercise that you enjoy the most? And definitely just like you can start small, and I think I can guarantee even doing a 10-minute exercise, you will feel better after. And that feeling of just feeling better and feeling like it's like the endorphins, right? Like it's like stimulating, right? That will feel nice, and you will I think it will motivate you to exercise more throughout the week too.
Always start small. I think that's the best way. Don't go crazy, be like, yeah, I'm going to do 2 hours of working out, I'm going to do this and this. Like it's not going to work out for you unless obviously you're experienced. But it's good to start off small and realize like, oh, what works best for you, and then you can build up on it.
Yeah, those are our tips.
Those are good tips. Yeah, those are great tips. Thank you for that. I think start small. The first step always seems the hardest, I guess. That's why. But yeah, thank you for that. And if anything, like with this exercise, like starting it, I would say that doing it with a family member helped me. So maybe that's something to think about as well. It's better when you have someone, pushing you as well. Hopefully that helps to the person who asked that question. Cool. So the next question that we have up here is, what do you do when you feel like your anxiety and stress are quite intertwined, and how do you deal with that kind of situational scenario?
I can relate to that. I don't know. I feel like for me, my stress and anxiety is quite intertwined. I feel like they have pretty similar, emotions that you go through with that. So like the tips that we've already sort of mentioned before of, I think if you feel like, okay, my anxiety is too high, my stress is too high, step back. You should step back, because you're going to just like keep dwelling on it and it's not going to benefit you in any way. So if you just step back, no matter how you might feel guilty for stepping back, but it's good to step back, tell someone, tell a family member, tell your roommate, tell someone, hey, I'm feeling kind of stressed out right now. Or listen to music. I think that's a good one. Writing it down, whatever way you can, try to let it out that, hey, I'm feeling, kind of stressed out right now. I think that's what I can think of.
Those are great tips. Those are, for me, I definitely relate. And I guess the only thing I can say, like, I feel like anxiety is the overthinker, and then stress is the result of some sort of external stressor. And like, maybe like accessing like the counseling services at UNSW could also be really beneficial in separating the two, because it could be they are quite intertwined, and I think it's sometimes difficult to learn how to tackle something if your anxiety is also contributing just to the situation. Personally, I think even things like breaking it down into tasks that might help. If you break it down and you can see that you've accomplished what you needed to accomplish, then you can, I think, maybe let go or move on to something else. Maybe that could help too. I think it's a great question, and I definitely think that a psychologist or a therapist can provide really, really good answers to this. But yeah.
Completely agree. Feel free to access, if you'd like, feel free to access the support services that was linked in the chat earlier, and also is on screen at the moment. Anxiety and stress is very similar. So I think these support services, as Dana mentioned, would be really helpful. So feel free to take a screenshot as well of this slide. And whilst you do that, there is other questions coming in. So the next question here is, are there any tips to stop overthinking about uni work? Okay, that's something I would do. This usually happens to me before I sleep. Oh, that is also me. Oh my gosh. Which keeps me up. I constantly evaluate the amount of work that I do and wonder if I did enough during the day. What is both of your take on this?
Yeah, so I touched on this before about the whole guiltiness aspect that we, experience. Stop overthinking. I guess I think like we touched on before, like the first question we answered about the self-care aspect. So don't stay up too late and then like be studying until like 12 or 1 or 2 and then going straight to sleep. I think it's good you need to find a way to unwind, right? Give yourself 10 minutes or 15 minutes, however long you want, to be like, okay, maybe I might, do a skincare routine, or maybe I might play a game with a sibling, or like, with my friends, like online, or I might, read a book, watch a movie, something to like take your mind off that. And you can practice those like mindfulness techniques that I mentioned before as well. Constantly evaluating the work that I do, like spot on, like, yeah, I feel like I do that too. But also it's like just, yeah, it's like sort of being like, okay, I did something today. So when you break down those big tasks like into the tiny ones, and you can try and attempt to at least get a few of those done. So you shouldn't feel too bad about how much work you've gotten done. At least, you've put in some effort. And sometimes it's fine to not put in or not get some work done. Like, don't feel too, bad about it. I think that's all I can think of.
I think with the whole sleep thing, definitely exercise can help you. If you exercise during the day, you'll definitely feel more tired and it can help you sleep. Like I've done that before. Like if I have a stressful like assessment or presentation or something the next day, I will exercise the day before to help me sleep and just wind down. That's what I can think for that.
Yeah, yoga, do some yoga. I've seen like YouTube videos of like bed yoga. So like in your bed, you do some yoga exercises that's supposed to like really like calm you down. So I think those are great. Yeah, it does. Or also I forgot what it's called, but there's like the celebrities do those like sleeping Calm, that app called Calm. Sorry, have you heard of that app? There's this app called Calm. Yeah, where they, it's like Matthew McConaughey or like Harry Styles or someone who goes through this like sleeping like meditation. It's really good. You should try that as well if you can't sleep well.
Oh my God, yes, meditate right before you sleep. That will help you. Yes.
Oh. Wait, on the Calm app, is it the one where they have like stories as well?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
That's the one.
You can just like click one, it'll go for like an hour or something, and you should fall asleep, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm going to download this. This sounds so
Me
good.
too. Me too. I'm going to be downloading it. And bed meditate, bed
yoga or something. I don't know. Yeah, you just like you can do like workouts in bed, but I mean, I don't know if there's any good, but there's like bed yoga or something like that if you don't want to get out of bed.
I'm searching that.
Yeah.
I am searching that. I'm that type of person who won't get out of bed. So, so that's good. Hopefully that helps, Jasmine. Calm app, bed meditation, yoga, but also all the other tips we just mentioned as well. So thank you for that question. Cool. So next question we have is how to deal with the fact that your family is a source of stress. Instead of being in a place of comfort. So whoever wants to take this question first, feel free to.
Yeah, you can go.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I think it's so important when like the stress, like your family is contributing, to find other people you can rely on. It's so important to find people who you can talk to and who can help you if you are feeling stressed or you need any other type of support. Yeah, for sure. Like not everyone has the greatest family situation, and it's difficult if you haven't moved out yet to kind of remove yourself. But I think finding other people is so important.
Yeah. I think also maybe just I think like treasuring the time that you have with yourself as well, so that if you are in that environment where maybe your family isn't, the best place to be, just being like, okay, at least you can sort of support yourself in, maybe writing it down. Then like I think writing is a good way, or maybe even vocalizing it in some way to yourself, like just like sort of easing yourself. I feel like with COVID as well, because I've just been home all the time, And sometimes like, oh, I miss my friends, I miss being able to talk to them like face to face. You can still reach out to them, online in that way. And also like the UNSW support services are a good way to talk to someone if you feel like maybe you don't have close other friends that you can talk to as well.
Yeah, those are great advice. Yeah, it seems like it is quite hard when family is the source of stress, but definitely don't be afraid to, speak up and seek help if you need, because I think that's what brings people back, like not being a bit afraid to kind of speak out. But yeah, feel free to do that. And once again, we hope that what we've mentioned does help you a bit. So hopefully that's all good. Awesome. So we also have another question, so I'll get right into it. So this one, this person said, I always find it difficult to keep practicing mindfulness and meditation, especially when there are a lot of assignments and exams to do. Is there any way you would suggest to help oneself keep motivated to practice mindfulness?
I think incorporating it into your own schedule. So if you're like, okay, I need to work on this assignment, I need to study for this exam, I need to revise, even like 10 minutes at the beginning of your day, I know that it helps. Like if I wake up, for instance, I'm like, okay, 10 minutes of meditation. That way you have a good start to your day. And then you're like, okay, I can get started. Or maybe at the end of your day, like just like have a calendar and just put like, okay, and during the day I want to do it here, like at this specific time period. I think, yeah, once a day you should, I guess, engage in it, because like uni is very overwhelming, and our schedules change pretty frequently. Like every term we have a different schedule, and it's super overwhelming. So I think incorporating it into your schedule, like, okay, 10 minutes when I wake up, I'm going to do this breathing technique, or I'm going to do some meditation, or I'm going to do some yoga, something like that.
I think that's a great answer. I think you've answered everything. Like the only thing I can, yeah, that was great. Like the only thing I can think of is just like you said, breaking it, like trying to find even like a couple of minutes between tasks, between studying, just to do something that's for yourself. Whether it is to even go outside, get some fresh air, just little things can even help. You don't have to do like an entire mindfulness session if you feel like you can't that day. And I think Copal like mentioned, setting a specific time during the day to do those sorts of things can be really helpful. Like for me, the morning is the time for me, and every single morning that's just how I start my day. And you get into a habit. Like forming habits is, I think, the greatest way. But even if like for whatever reason there's one day where you really can't, just taking a couple of minutes for yourself, listening to like a song or doing anything like that can help you kind of just remove yourself from the stresses.
I completely agree with that. And I think also to add on to that is with mindfulness, there's actually many different types. So see which one works for you. So obviously there's like, meditation, but there's also mindful walking, there's also mindful coloring. There's just so many different things out there. So maybe seeing what really suits you could help you kind of incorporate into your life a bit more, as both of you have said, like having that incorporating a part of your life. So definitely look into it. I think mindfulness is great. And yeah, hopefully you're able to incorporate it into your life somehow and become more motivated to practice mindfulness. Cool. So this leads us to the last question we have on the Q&A box. So this is from Helena, and she asked, how do you deal with having a lot of things on your plate? Which is something that I think all uni students can relate. So I'll pass it on to you both to share what you think.
I feel like we've sort of answered this question, but I guess it's just like breaking it down. I think, like I said before, like you get so overwhelmed by the big picture that we're like, oh, I have like this assignment, this exam, and I'm volunteering, and I'm also need to, I have work, and you're like, okay, I have like so many things to do. How can I possibly like keep up with all of it? So it's, yeah, I think it's just like breaking it down and being like, I think, yeah, just breaking it down. I think that's the main thing. And just not, don't underestimate your abilities. I think we're all capable of, getting through things, certain amounts. So I think, yeah, reaching out and maybe and being like, you can ask for help. I think lots of people, like if you're living with someone, but they can always give you some advice as well, or you can maybe even pass on a task possibly to someone else, or get someone else's support to help you get that task done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great. Like we mentioned before, and Copal said again, breaking it down is so important. I think maybe another thing I can think of is learn how you work best when there are multiple things to balance. Like for me, I like to work on multiple projects at the same time. Some people like to work on one project at a time, and that's how they get through material the best. I think just learning about yourself and finding out how you like to best manage multiple tasks can really help. It will really help when it comes to prioritizing, because when you have multiple things, multiple deadlines, you'll have to prioritize, you'll have to split things down, you'll have to work on multiple things every day just to get through it. And yeah, learning how you like to study, how you like to learn is so important when it comes to situations like this.
Scheduling. Yeah, I think scheduling is pretty big. Just being like, hey, this morning I'll work on this task, and then this afternoon I'll work on this, or I might have work this morning, so I'm going to go to work and I'll come back and I'm like, okay, now I need to do this assignment. So just being a little bit strict on what you want to do, and incorporating like mindfulness techniques as well, because it can get overwhelming to balance it all. So yeah.
Yes, and UNSW, I think, has a weekly calendar that you can download. Let me try and find it. And it breaks up the day into half-hour slots, I think, or hour slots. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've honestly been using, because it really helps me to break it down. Like you said, that's just the best way for me to get through the material. I can't find it now, but you can definitely access it. It's somewhere. I think it's in the academic resources. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is great. Thank you for both sharing your thoughts. Scheduling sounds like hopefully that helps ease some things off your plate. So I think that brings us to the end of all the Q&A questions. Thank you to everyone who wrote questions. I think that was a very insightful discussion, and I think we really hope that all those answers really helped you all. And thank you, Copal and Dana, for answering that. It was great to hear all of your thoughts, and we hope that this session really helped on behalf of Student Minds. Thank you for attending, everyone.